Good evening, guys. Welcome to day 5 of performance testing training on Roadrunner and Demeter tools. So in the previous session, guys, we discussed about what is performance testing, what are the main requirements of the performance testing, right? Expected requirements, and why we need to go for the performance testing. And also we have seen what are the different types of tests that are going to be there in the performance testing, all these points, right? So what is performance testing, guys? Anyone? Can I get an answer from anyone? What is performance testing?
Like performance testing is basically putting a user load on any application and testing its behavior generally in terms of response time and some other factors.
And what are the 4 expected requirements of the performance testing?
Speed, stability, scalability, and reliability.
Speed, stability, scalability, and reliability. Right. So, what are the 4 different types of performance tests that we have seen in yesterday's session?
Load, stress, endurance, and spike.
Spike test. Right. 4 different types of tests we discussed. Right. So, in that, what is endurance test?
Like endurance test, we like soak the application for 8 days or 10 days, like with the user load.
It's a long duration.
Minimum, or we can say, yeah, we'll soak the application basically.
So we are going to soak the application. Another name for endurance test is soak test 2, right? Soak test or long duration test. So, when we are going to do the performance testing? When we are going to do the
after the functional testing.
After the functional testing got completed, then only we need to go for the performance testing, right? At least minimum of 1 round of functional testing, right? So with these basic things, right? So now we are going to see in today's session, guys, a very important concept that is the performance testing life cycle, right? So as we have already seen, right, we have seen SDLC, software development life cycle, STLC, software testing life cycle, right? In the same way, for performance testing also one life cycle is there, and let's try to understand what are the different phases or stages that are there in that performance testing life cycle, right? So let's quickly go to the slide. So performance testing life cycle, guys, in short form we are going to call this as PTLC. Okay, in short form we are going to call this as PTLC. So if you remember, the first question that they are going to ask in the interview, right? So can I know your roles and responsibilities? Can I know about yourself and your roles and responsibilities? So in the roles and responsibilities stage, you need to tell this answer. Okay. So how you need to tell them? You need to tell that particular answer. We'll see at the end of this particular session, right? So coming to the performance testing life cycle, guys. So first of all, what is the need of creating one more life cycle over here for performance testing? Any guess? So we have already STLC, right? Why PTLC again? So the answer is so simple. The process again here is going to be differed when compared to the functional testing, right? So why? Because this is a non-functional testing. Performance testing is a non-functional testing, and the flow that we are going to follow here is a different one, right? So whenever if you make some proper flow, okay, then only we can get the output in a proper way, right? So that is the reason why we have separate life cycle over here for performance testing, that is PTLC, performance testing life cycle, right? So coming to the PTLC, guys, the first stage in the PTLC is the risk assessment. So PTLC is going to start with risk assessment part, right? So what is risk assessment? Who is going to do this risk assessment and everything we'll see right now, right? So let me go to the next slide so that I can explain you what is risk assessment and everything. So now we'll go to the risk assessment part, right? So in the what is risk assessment first? So risk assessment, what it will do is it will determine the neediness of the performance testing for each individual component in a software. Okay. So for example, guys, I'm giving you an example over here. So let us take the Flipkart application, right? So in the Flipkart application, so what are the different roles that you can expect? So let us take one college. Okay, in engineering college, what are the different roles that you are going to see? Principal, HODs, right? Faculty, lab assistants, like that, right? In the same way, what are the different roles that are there in the Flipkart application? Just make a wild guess, right? So first role is the buyer role, right? Who is going to buy the products? Buyer, who is going to buy the products? Next, seller role, right? Who is going to sell the products, right? And the third one is the admin
Delivery.
role. Sorry, admin role, right? So what this admin will do? So whenever any seller, if he is trying to add the product that he wants to sell, right? So this admin, he will approve the particular seller products. He will approve the sellers. He will approve the buyers and everything, right? And seller, what the seller can do? Seller can add the products or remove the products, right? And he can do many other things according to the works allocated to him, right? In the same way, buyer, what the buyer will do? Buyer is nothing but the normal user like us. He'll log in into the particular application. He will book the product. He will track his product. He will change his password. Okay, he will add the credit card details. He will remove that card details. He will add his address. Right. So like this, many things buyer also can do. Right. So see here, different people are there, okay, on this particular application. Different roles are there on this particular application, and in each and every role they are going to do different process, right? Different flows they are going to perform. That means admin, he's going to approve this and everything, right? So like that, each and every role is having their specific works assigned to them, right? So out of all these works, guys, which works are very important, right? So which particular flows that we need to test? Okay, flow here is nothing but, what is the meaning of flow? Flow here is nothing but if it is in the case of buyer, right? So in order to book the product from the Flipkart application, what are the different steps that he is going to do? Okay, that entire steps combination we are going to call it as a flow. That entire steps combinedly we are going to call it as a flow. That means in order to book one particular product, he's going to launch the application, he's going to log in into the application, he's going to select the product, he's going to add the product to the cart, and he's going to proceed to the checkout, and finally he's going to add his address, credit card details and everything, and finally he's going to place the order, right? So these are all the things will come under one particular flow. These are all the steps will come under one particular flow, right? So like that, each and every role is having some specified number of flows, right? So in that specified number of flows, let us say all the three roles combinedly, they are going to perform 20 different flows, let us assume, right? So out of these 20 different flows, which flows are very important? Okay, which flows are very critical one that we need to test it for the performance, right? So generally, which flows we are going to call it as a critical flows? If you take the Flipkart example again, right? If you take only buyer case, right? Buyer, he can do different things, right? So he can book the product, right? He can cancel the order, he can track the order, he can change his password. Like that, he will do different flows, right? So out of all this, which one is the very important flow, very critical flow that we need to identify? Okay, generally most of the users, what they will do on the application is nothing but the critical flow, guys. So generally, where the most of the users are going to access in order to buy the product, in order to track the order, right? In order to cancel it, right? So even though the buyer can do many other flows too, but out of all the flows, these three are the major flows where more users are going to perform these actions. Right? As a normal user, you are also going to buy the product, you are going to track the order, and you are going to simply cancel the order. Right? So these flows are critical business flows. We are going to call them as critical business flows. Okay, the meaning of critical business flows are nothing but very important flows where more users are accessing that particular pages. Those flows we are going to call it as the critical business flows. And also there will be some other flows, okay, which is dependent on another flow. Let us say we are trying to buy a product, but at the payment page, right, at the payment page, it is taking much time to load the page, right? Then we need to test that particular payment process also sometimes, right? So that particular thing also is going to be a critical business one for us, right? So in the risk assessment stage, what generally we are going to do here is, we here is nothing but manager guys. Okay, generally risk assessment will be done by the manager. So what the manager will do is, first of all, he is going to take help of the architecture, application architecture, right? So he will get the application architecture details, he will get the HLD as well as the LLD documents and everything, right? And he's going to go through all these documents first, and he's going to prepare one rough assessment. Okay, he's going to prepare one rough assessment, and then what he will do is, he will simply send one mail to all the stakeholders. Okay, stakeholders here are nothing but different project managers, right, from the testing team, from the development team, right, business analyst. For all those stakeholders, he's going to send the mail, right, and he's going to put one meeting with those stakeholders. So in that meeting, he's going to clearly explain what are the business scenario, critical business flows are the scenarios that he identified, right, and because of which particular flow, right, is there any effect on the other flow or not, right? All these things he's going to identify here in the risk assessment stage, and he's going to put all these things, whatever that he assessed, in front of the stakeholders. So once, if everything is good, if stakeholders are also good with that, then the risk assessment stage is done, right? So what is the output of this risk assessment stage? Output of the risk assessment stage is nothing but which particular flows we need to test as a part of performance testing is going to be finalized here. Is it clear? Okay. Silence means I can say yes. I can understand yes, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, again, the same point I mentioned over here. Here, risk assessment is conducted to decide the scope of performance testing in the project. So whether performance testing is really required to this project or not also can be done, can be assessed with the help of this risk assessment. And also it will help us to understand the impact of changes on the existing functionality. Okay, also the impact of adding new functionality to the existing system. So both the things, guys. Let us say Flipkart application is already there in production, right? They have seen some issue on 2014 whenever they introduced the first big billion day sale in India. So at that time, what they have done, so they thought like because of some existing functionality, some issues are there, right? So what are the existing functionality issues? They want to identify that. So in order to identify that, okay, they started doing the risk assessment, and in that they simply identified, okay, for which particular flows more users are accessing, and in that particular flows, especially which particular page is creating the issue for us, that they are trying to understand it, right? So those kind of flows, either from the existing functionality or whenever if any new functionality is added, right? So is that new functionality is affecting the existing functionality or not, right? So those kind of flows also we need to add it into the performance testing part, right? So that can be decided in the risk assessment phase. And finally, what it will do is, it will help us to identify the in-scope and out-scope components of the performance testing. So what is the meaning of in-scope and out-scope components? I'm going to discuss in the test plan stage. That is most probably day after tomorrow. Day after tomorrow. Okay. So why? Because today I will complete the entire PTLC first, and in tomorrow's session I'm going to discuss about the NFR gathering with a real-time document. I'll show you one real-time document, and then on Tuesday I'm going to cover the test plan document. Again, I'll show you one real-time test plan document, and in that I'm going to cover this in scope and out of scope components clearly. Okay. So finally, what I want to tell here is, with the risk assessment stage, after keeping the meeting, the manager is going to put the major points over here, okay, which are related to the code level changes. So if any code level changes happen, means, okay, what are the impacted components that he is expecting, or if already application is in production, based on the different logs, they are going to identify because of some code level changes which particular component got affected, right? Whether the web server got affected or app server or DB server, especially if we are having more than one DB server, then which particular DB server got affected, all those things he is going to identify here, right? That means whatever that is going to mention, right? Whenever if you are doing the performance testing, we need to concentrate on all these parts. We need to concentrate on the web server, we need to concentrate on the app server, as well as we need to concentrate on the DB server too, right? So these are the components which are going to be impacted, right? And these are the components which are not impacted, which are out of scope, means not impacted. So no need of checking the middleware, okay, no need of checking the reporting server. Why? Because like high user load is not impacting these two particular components. So these two components are out of scope, whereas high user load is impacting these components. So these components are going to be the in scope here. So this is the analysis the manager is going to do based on the HLD as well as LLD documents and the application architecture, right? Along with this, what he will do is he will do the other things also, like he will identify the critical business scenarios, as I mentioned, right? So in terms of the end user, buying a product, canceling the order are the two major scenarios where most of the users are going to access, right? And when coming to the seller, adding a product, removing a product is going to be done by the seller. When coming to the admin, approving the seller request, approving a product request, right, is going to be done by the admin, right? And when coming to the customer care, registering a complaint, right? So whenever, obviously, if your product is not delivered, or if you are facing any issue with the product, you need to contact the customer care. So that is going to be a major thing again, right? So like that, he is going to identify the critical business scenario, CBS, critical business scenarios over here. So once after identifying the critical business scenarios, along with that, he is going to put the out of scope business scenarios also. So updating the cart, very less users will do, right? So removing a seller, rejecting the product request, refund the amount, right? This will happen very rarely, right? So that is the reason why these will come under the out of scope business scenarios. That means no need of doing the performance testing for these particular flows. No need of doing the performance testing for these particular flows. Is it clear? So as a part of risk assessment stage, okay, he's going to identify all these things, and finally, okay, based on this, whether performance testing is required really or not, they will finalize this. This is all about the risk assessment stage. So once the risk assessment stage is done, right? So they will, the output of this risk assessment stage is, they will identify the critical business scenarios, and also if critical business scenarios are more, then obviously they need to go for the performance testing, obviously, right? So that means whether performance testing is really required for this application or not can be decided in the risk assessment stage, right? So next, once after the risk assessment stage is done, right, then immediately the next thing that we are going to do is POC. Okay, POC means, what is POC, guys? Anyone?
Point of
Proof of concepts.
Proof of concept.
Proof of concepts.
Right. So proof of concept. So this is one more stage, guys. After risk assessment stage and before NFR gathering stage, right? So we need to do this. Or some people, they will do it after NFR gathering also. Okay, but generally it's always better to go with POC before the NFR gathering, so that you can ask more things to the client, more questions to the client, right? So what generally we will be doing in the POC stage? Any guess? Any guess? Anyone, guys? What we are going to do in the POC stage? Raju?
Yeah, here we are identifying the critical business transactions.
Not exactly. Not critical business transactions. We have already done that in the risk assessment stage, right? We have seen the critical business scenarios. We identified it in the risk assessment stage. In the POC, what generally we will do is which tool is better. Okay, which tool is better for us to go with the performance testing, right? So outside, we have many other tools, right? Many tools like load runner, JMeter, NeoLoad, BATS, VHTS, like that. Gatling, n number of tools are there, n number of performance testing tools are there, right? So out of all those tools, which tool is going to be the better for this application? That we need to test it here in the POC stage. In the POC stage, they will take 2 or 3 tools, right? Let us assume like they have taken the load runner, they have taken JMeter, and they have taken NeoLoad. Okay, so they opted these 3 tools, right? And what they will do in the POC stage is they will start recording, or they will start using the tool, okay, on this particular application. As of now, let us assume Flipkart is the application that we are testing, right? So they will start recording or using the tool, okay, and they will start doing the performance testing of this Flipkart application. So what they will do is they will take one single flow. Okay, they will take one flow over here, 1 or 2 flows maximum. Okay, and they will start recording these particular flows, and they will start using testing the application with the help of this particular tool. And at that time, right, how the application is working, right, whether the application is getting recorded successfully or not, right, whether the application we can able to test the things properly or not, right? All these things we are going to verify it in the POC stage. Finally, okay, what are the advantages of going for each and every tool? What are the disadvantages of going for each and every tool? We need to prepare it as a document, okay, along with the proper results, right? And this document we are going to show it to the client. So once the client is going to say like, okay, after seeing the advantages and disadvantages, if the client is okay with the JMeter tool, then we are going to opt the JMeter. If the client is okay with the NeoLoad, then we need to go with the NeoLoad, right? Based on the client's requirement, the tool is going to be finalized at the end, right? So this is the major thing that we are going to do in the POC. Is it clear, everyone? I think yes. Okay. So once after the POC is done, right? So immediately we'll go to the next stage, that is the NFR gathering stage. NFR means non-functional requirement, right? So performance testing is a non-functional testing. We have already seen that, right? So in the NFR gathering stage, that is, we are going to gather the non-functional requirements here, right? So in this particular stage, we are going to prepare one document, guys. That document name is NFR document, okay? Non-functional requirement document, right? So this document generally in most of the companies, they will prepare in Excel format. Okay, some companies they will use document format, Microsoft Word, okay, Excel or Word, okay. So in my company, they are using the Excel format. In some companies, I have seen like they are using Word too, right? So what we are going to do in the NFR gathering and analysis stage is nothing but, so here in this particular stage, manager, okay, manager along with the business analyst, manager along with the business analyst is going to sit with the client. Both of them they are going to sit with the client, and manager as well as team lead, they will sit before meeting the client. They will sit and they will prepare one questionnaire, guys. They are going to prepare some n number of questions. Okay, whatever the doubts they have, they will prepare that doubts in the form of a questions, right? So those questions, along with the BA, the manager is going to sit with the client and he's going to ask the client all the questions, whatever that he prepared, right? And the client is going to give answers to that. And that particular questions, along with the answers, they are going to prepare one document. That document is nothing but the NFR document, right? So once after preparing this document, they are going to do the analysis of that. That means they are going to read that and they are going to finally prepare one proper document, and that document they are going to give it as an input to the next stage. The next stage is the test planning stage. Okay, so you may get doubt what are the questions that they are going to ask, right? So what are the questions that they are going to ask and how to prepare the document, NFR document and everything, we'll see in tomorrow's session. I have one, I'll take one separate section for preparing the NFR document. Why? Because in that we need to ask n number of questions to the client, right? So compulsory question in your interview, guys. Okay, don't forget. So what are the questions that you are going to ask to the client as a part of NFR gathering? Compulsory question in your interview. So minimum you need to tell 6 to 7 questions to the interviewer. Then only he will get satisfied. Okay, those questions also should be the proper one. Okay, like you will have some minimum of 40 questions, something like that. Out of that 40, if you take 6 to 8 questions, it's more than enough. Right? We'll see what are all those questions and everything in our coming session. That means in tomorrow's session. Okay. So once the NFR gathering document got prepared, right, and analyzed, this document they are going to provide it to the next stage, that is the test planning stage, right? So in the test planning stage, they are going to prepare the test plan document here. Okay. Or in some companies, they will prepare test strategy document. Okay. Test plan, or they can call it as the test strategy also. Both documents are generally different, but whatever the contents that you are going to keep inside these two documents are almost all similar. Okay, so some companies they will prepare only the test plan document. Some companies they will prepare only the test strategy document. Any one document they are going to prepare at the end, right? So this test plan document and whatever the test plan document that we have seen in the PTLC, right? Almost all the contents will be same, but here the contents which we are going to place it in the test plan document are related to the non-functional testing part, right? So here some contents, like the content headings may be same, but inside that the content will be different. Okay, whatever the matter that we are going to place it will be different, right? So again, on Tuesday we are going to see what are the different things that we are going to keep it in the test plan document. As I mentioned, we are going to keep each and every point, guys, starting from the introduction onwards. First thing that we are going to keep is introduction to the project. Okay, like why we are going for the performance testing for this particular project. What are the key scenarios that you identified? Right, what is the in scope and out scope of this particular project? Right, what is the application architecture of your project? So what is the entry criteria and exit criteria? What are the different flows that you identified as the critical business one? And how much user load that you are going to keep in that, right? Each and everything we are going to prepare in a proper way. Okay, again, this document they are going to prepare in Word. Okay, they are going to use Word. Okay, and they are going to prepare this document in Microsoft Word, right? So finally this document they are going to give it to the next stage. Okay, so the next stage is test scripting, guys. But before going to the text scripting stage, we need to prepare one more document based on the test plan document. So I don't know generally in most of the companies whether they will prepare or not, but whatever the companies that I work, right, in almost all the companies we prepared this document. That document we are going to call it as traversal flow document, TFD, traversal flow document. So did anyone heard this name, guys, especially those who are working? Traversal flow document. Bhargavi?
No, no, Mohan.
Okay. So in the traversal flow document, maybe after describing what exactly the traversal flow document, you may get some idea. So see, in the traversal flow document, what we are going to do is, let us say, as I mentioned, right, in the name itself, it is there, traversal flow document. That means we are going to keep the entire details of the flow that we are going to test, right? So let us take one flow here. So what is the flow here that I'm taking is user registration, right? So user registration is the flow that I am taking, right? So in the user registration flow, what are the different steps that I am going to do? Let's discuss that with the help of notepad. I'll take one notepad here. So let me put this one, right? So I'm going to call this as flow, guys, right? So what is the flow that I'm trying to discuss here is user registration, right? So user registration in general, right? In general, okay, this flow consists of steps, right? So what are the different steps that are going to be there in the user registration flow? What generally as a normal user you are going to do? First of all, you are going to launch the application, right? So, and after, the second step that you are going to do is you are going to click register button, right? Take any application. I'm just giving you some overview, right? So after clicking on the register, what you will do, you are going to enter the details, right? And you are going to click on register now, right? So you are going to click on register now after entering the details, right? I'm just making it as enter details and click register now, right? So once if you click on the register now, the registration process will be done, right? So once after the registration process is done, you need to verify, right, whether the registration is happened successfully or not. So in order to verify that, what generally you will do, you will click on login button again, right? So click login button. Why? Because you are trying to log in it and you are going to see whether it is going to happen or not, right? So once after clicking on the login button, it will take you to the login page. So wherein you need to enter the username and password and finally click on sign in, right? So next step is enter username and password. Okay, username and password and click sign in, right? Next, once after clicking sign in, if the user got logged in successfully, so after verifying that I logged in successfully, I will do log out, right? As a last step, I'm going to do log out, right? So these are all the different steps that I'm going to perform in the user registration flow. In order to do one particular user registration, I need to follow all these steps, right? Yes or no? Obviously, yes, right? So whatever the steps, okay, that we have over here, these steps, each and every step, we are going to call it as a transaction. Remember, guys, in performance testing terminology, we are going to call this as transaction. So each and every step, we are going to call it as transaction, right? So here we have total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 steps are there, right? So these 6 steps combinedly, right? So I can say it as group of transactions, right? These are nothing but group of transactions, right? In performance testing, right? Group of transactions is going to create one scenario. Scenario is nothing but flow. Remember, whatever the flow that I'm telling, right? So that is nothing but scenario. See, I'm going to write it over here. So group of transactions are going to create one scenario. So from now onwards, guys, I'm not going to call this as flow. Okay, I'm going to call this as scenario, right? So what scenario consists of? Scenario consists of group of transactions. So here launch is one transaction, clicking on the register button is one transaction, right? Entering the details and clicking on the register now is one transaction. And again, clicking on the login is one transaction. Like that, different transactions are there. Group of all these transactions will form or will create one scenario. That scenario name is user registration scenario. Right? So in that, total how many scenarios that you can do in that application, you need to identify that, and you are going to keep all those scenarios along with the transactions for each and every scenario separately in one document, so that in future, let us say you are moving to another company, right? So in place of you, if some other is, so here we are going to simply create each and every scenario along with the steps in the form of one document, right? So that in future, even though if you are not there, right? So the person who is going to come in play in the place of you can understand the particular steps, whatever that you have done easily over here, right? So in order to make them understand properly, we need to create one document, right, wherein we are going to keep the scenario along with the transactions name with a proper naming convention. With a proper naming convention. Okay, remember this naming convention. We'll discuss about this naming convention also in our Tuesday session, right? So after discussing the test plan on the same session itself, I am going to create the traversal flow document, right? So in the traversal flow document, we are going to keep the scenario names along with the transactions, right, with proper naming convention. So this document, we are going to call it as a traversal flow document here. This document, we are going to call it as a TFD, that is traversal flow document. So, Bhargavi, like this kind of document, have you prepared?
TFT? No, Mohan, actually. So busy, like critical flows, and then they gave me the NFR actually, and then I started preparing the test plan directly.
Okay. In the test plan, you're going to mention it, right? Generally. Did you mention plan
Yeah.
and everything?
No, in that mainly I focused on in scope and out scope only.
Oh, okay.
Like
Okay. Right.
yeah.
So this document, anyhow, we are going to prepare it in our coming sessions. We'll see that how
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Once the traversal flow document is prepared, right? Then based on this traversal flow document only, we are going to start the test scripting process. Okay. So based on this traversal flow document, we are going to start the test scripting, guys. Right. So what we'll do in the test scripting stage is nothing but, see here. So here we are going to take help of the tools. Whatever the tool that got approved once after the POC, right? So that tool we are going to take it. We are going to take help of the PT tools here, performance testing tools, right? So we are going to take the PT tool. Let us say if we are taking the JMeter, right? Client approved JMeter tool here, right? In the PO after POC. Then we are going to take the JMeter tool, right? So what the JMeter tool will do is whatever the normal user is doing on the browser, right? So whatever the scenario that a normal user is doing on the browser, let us say normal user is doing the user registration on the browser, right? So with the help of the JMeter tool, okay, we are going to record, okay, we are going to do the same scenario on the browser, and the tool, what the JMeter tool will do is the JMeter tool will capture all the steps that you are doing on the browser. Let us say if you are launching the page, that launching the page process step will be captured by the tool, right? If you are clicking on the register, that step will be captured by the tool, right? So like that, whatever the 6 steps that we have seen, right, in the user registration scenario. So all those 6 transactions are going to be captured by the tool here, right? So once after capturing the tool, right, once after capturing those transactions by the tool, right? So again here, with how many users this particular tool is capturing? With single user, right? So whatever the single user is performing on the browser, this tool is capturing that particular steps or flow or transactions, right? So that particular transactions will be captured by the JMeter tool over here, right? So how it is going to capture and everything we'll see at the time of test scripting, right? So once after capturing all those transactions, right, it need to store those transactions, right? So that particular transactions, whatever that it got recorded, it will store that in the form of a script. Okay, so those transactions we are going to save it in the form of a file. That file we are going to call it as a script, guys. Okay, we are going to call it as a script, right? So once the script got prepared, right, once the script is ready, then as a next step we are going to take help of the again JMeter tool, and in that we are going to have different elements, right? With the help of those elements, what we'll do is we'll do the script enhancement over here. So the next step once after recording the script is script enhancement. Okay, so what is the meaning of script enhancement? Is nothing but, see now, with how many users, guys, we are going to do the performance testing? Is it with a single user? Obviously no. We are going to do the performance testing with n number of users, right? So that n value may be 1000 or 10,000 or 1 lakh, whatever it may be. It will be the n number of users. We are going to do the performance testing with n number of virtual users over here, right? So my script, whatever that I recorded over here with the help of the JMeter tool, right, is with only single user, right? So if I am passing different users over here, if I am passing n number of virtual user count over here, okay, whatever the script that I recorded over here won't work. Okay, won't work if you are not going to do the script enhancement. Okay, why? The reason is, see, every browser, guys, every browser will have one concept called cookie and cache. How many of you know this? Cookie as well as cache.
Yeah.
What cookies will do? What cookies will do?
It will generate the dynamic values like every request to the server.
Cookie will hold the user session. Okay, what the cookie will do is it will hold the user session. Okay, what cache will do? Cache is nothing but temporary memory location of the browser. Okay, let me show you these two things practically for you. Okay, so let me show you these two things. So I'm opening one browser, right? I'm opening Chrome, right? So in this particular Chrome, guys, see now, as of now, I'm typing flipkart.com, right? So I'm typing flipkart.com over here. So what I will do, I'm not doing any login over here. I'm just selecting one particular watch, right? And I'm again selecting this watch and I'm adding this to the cart, right? So I'm adding this watch to the cart, right? Now in my cart, one item got added, right? So if I come to this particular, well, like if I open the Flipkart page again, right? If I open the Flipkart page again, so just close this, okay? Just open it in one more tab, right? I'm just opening the Flipkart page in one more tab, right? Now you can see here, so previously my cart is empty, but as I added one particular item over here, right? So it is showing that one item got added in the cart, right? So now what I will do, I'll close the browser, right? I'll reopen the browser again, right? Now let me type flipkart.com again. See here, even though after closing the browser and reopening it again, right, I'm seeing the same item which I added in the cart previously, right? Previously I added this watch, right? I'm seeing the same item again in the cart, right? So generally after closing the browser, it should go, right? But why it is not going? The reason here is cookie is holding this particular user session. Okay, because of the cookie, it is holding whatever the process that we have done, right? In the same way, one more best example is I'm opening the Gmail, right? So whenever if I'm typing gmail.com, see here what is happening. I didn't enter the username or I didn't enter the password too, right? But what happened here? I'm able to see my email got opened automatically. Why? What is the reason? The reason here is cookie. Cookie is holding this particular user session so that, okay, whenever if I am opening the browser, it is working, it is automatically opening the Gmail here for me, right? Without asking me the username and password, right? So this is what generally the cookie will do, right? So now let's try to understand what is catch, right? So now let's try to understand what is catch, right? So let me open the developer tools. I'm just trying to open the developer tools concept. Again, I'll discuss this concept in the coming sessions. But as of now, I'm just opening one developer tools option over here, which is available on the browser. This developer tool option will be there in each and every browser. I'll clearly explain how to open this developer tool and how to see each and everything in the developer tool. I'll discuss in our coming session. One separate class is there for this, right? So now what I'm doing here, I'm typing the Flipkart again over here, right? So whenever if I'm typing the Flipkart, guys, see there is one column in this developer tool called size. Okay. So there is one column here called size, guys, right? So whenever if you are seeing size here, see what is happening here. It is showing the size as 147 KB for the first one, right? Whereas for the remaining things, it is showing the size as disk cache. So what is the meaning of this? Nothing but every browser is going to have some internal memory. So that internal memory we are going to call it as cache memory or cache memory, right? So whenever if you are trying to launch this particular page, right? In this particular page, you can observe many images, okay, JavaScript files, CSS files, okay, whatever that we discussed in our last session, right? So all those things will be available in this particular page, right? So those things, instead of getting downloaded from the server, from the web server, so what is happening here? It is getting downloaded from the disk cache. That means as I already opened this particular application in my browser, right, previously. So because of that, whatever the images that it got downloaded, right, it is already available in the browser memory. So now whenever if I am opening this application, it is getting opened because of this disk cache, right? So generally, guys, remember this disk cache is nothing but it's a temporary memory location. Cookie, what it will do is it will hold the user session, right? So if I want to log in again, let us take if I want to log in again here with Gmail, right, with some different username, right? So I'm just typing Gmail over here, but what is happening here? Whenever if I'm typing gmail.com over here, again it is opening my account only. Why? Because the user session is there, like the cookie is there here, right? So in the same way, whatever the recording that I have done over here is with the single user, right? Just try to understand. Whatever the recording that I have done here is a single user. This single user will contain some cookie as well as cache, right? So whatever the embedded resources that got downloaded here is downloaded from the cache memory. Whatever the user session that is going to be there is going to be taken care by the cookie, right? So if I want to make this particular script to run with n number of users, right? If I want to execute the script or test the script with n number of users, then in the similar way, how the single user is having the cookie and cache, for the n number of users also they will have cookie and cache too, right? And they will send different usernames, different passwords, everything they are going to send it in a different way, right? It is not going to be same like the single user with which we have done the recording, right? So in order to make the script ready to execute with n number of users, right? Whatever the steps that we are going to do, those steps we are going to call it as the script enhancement. Okay. So here with single user, right? We are recording the script, but we are doing the script enhancements in such a way that, right, even though instead of single user, if I am passing n number of users, n number of different users also, the script should work in the same way. That means if one single user is doing the user registration process, even though if I am passing n number of users, all the n number of users also should do the same thing, right? So in order to do that, right, we need to do some scripting enhancements, right? So what are the scripting enhancements that we need to do is, we need to handle this cookie, we need to handle this cache, we need to pass different usernames, we need to pass different passwords, right, and everything, right? That entire process we are going to do it in the script enhancement stage, right? So once the script enhancement is done, now we are good, right? So this entire process of recording the script, saving the script, and doing the scripting enhancements will come under the test scripting stage. This will be done with the help of the tool. Is it clear? Any doubts in this? Guys, please feel free to ask your doubts. You need to understand all these points for sure. That's why I'm taking complete time over here. Yeah, somebody is trying to ask a question. No? Okay. So, if you are going to complete all these 3 steps, that means recording the script, okay, saving the script and doing the scripting enhancements, then we are good with the test scripting stage, right? So once the test scripting stage is done, then we'll go to the next stage, that is the workload modeling stage, right? So in the previous session, we already discussed, right? We are going to perform different types of tests, like load test, stress test, endurance test, and spike test, right? So for each and every type of test, we are going to take different user count, right? Let me clear all these things. If you don't have any doubts, guys, I'm going to clear all these things so that I can explain you what exactly the workload modeling is. Okay, I'm clearing this. Now, as we have already seen, right, we have 4 different types of tests. We have, right, 4 different types of tests, right? For each and every type of test, the user load is going to be varied, right? So finally, why we need to test it? Why we need to test it? Why we need to test the application? What is the main aim of going for the different types of tests? And what is the main aim of the performance testing, especially, is nothing but, let us say, one big billion day sale is going to happen, right? So previously, like last year, one big billion day sale happened. So in that particular big billion day sale, on one particular day, okay, on one particular day, some more number of users, like peak number of users are there on that particular day, right? And especially during one particular hour, let us say from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m., right? So from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m., right? From 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. on that particular, sorry, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., 1 hour, right? So 1 hour from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on that one particular hour, right? More number of users are there. Some, let us assume 10K users are accessing the application and they are doing different transactions here, right? That means on this particular hour, more transactions per hour is happened. More transactions happen, right? On this particular hour, more transactions is happened. That means transactions per hour. Okay, these 10K users, they have done different transactions on that particular hour, right? Let us take the user registration example, right? So let us take the user registration example. So out of this 10K users, let us say some 2K users, right? 2,000 users done the user registration scenario in that particular hour, right? So in that particular hour, 2,000 users done the user registration scenario. That means total how many transactions is going to happen in that particular hour, guys? Guys, how many transactions is going to happen in that particular hour? 2,000 users are accessing and they are doing the user registration. That means total 2,000 user registrations happened on that particular hour. Assume, right? 2,000 users done the 2000 registrations within that one particular hour, right? So this is what our aim. Our aim here is we need to verify whether we are reaching this 2000 transactions within 1 hour or not, right? So whatever the test that you are going to perform, let us say you are doing the load test, right? So in the load test, so you are going to take 1 hour time, right? And within that 1 hour, right, with some n number of users, you are, if you are performing the user registration flow, right? If you are performing the user registration flow, your aim is to reach 2000 times user registration should happen. That is what your aim is, right? Why? Because on that particular hour, 2000 user registrations got happened, right? So that is the reason why 2000 user registrations should be done in the 1 hour load test with n number of users is what you are aiming, right? So in order to make this happen, in order to make this transactions per hour, to in order to reach this particular transactions per hour, what we need to do is we need to calculate one term called pacing. Okay, there is one concept called pacing, right? So within one specific hour, if you want to reach the required transactions per hour, you need to calculate this pacing, right? So why the pacing is going to be calculated means in order to reach the required transactions per hour, right? So in order to reach this required transactions per hour, we are going to calculate the pacing. And how we are going to calculate the pacing is nothing but by using one formula called Little's law. Okay, there is one formula, guys, called Little's law. So with the help of this Little's law, we are going to calculate the pacing, right? And once after calculating the pacing, what we will do, we are going to keep this pacing in the test script, whatever that we prepared, right? So we prepared the user registration scenario, right? So test script. So in that particular test script, we are going to keep this value, right? And once you do the load test, right, with the pacing, whatever that you calculated, then finally after the end, at the end of the load test, you are going to see like 2000 registrations are going to happen with the n number of users, whatever that you have given over here, right? So this calculation of pacing based on the different types of tests will be done in the workload modeling. The workload modeling says calculation of pacing with the help of the Little's law in order to reach the required transactions per hour for different types of tests will be done over here. Is it clear? Guys, two things. If you are not asking any question, either you would have understood or completely no. Which one is the answer here? Or little bit confused?
Sir, one question.
Go ahead.
Sir, workload model is nothing but distributing number of scenarios, all those things, no, sir?
Distributed the users among the scenarios. That is different.
Okay.
Okay. So at that again, that is part here. Okay, we are going to distribute the user load also here. That is a part, but that is not completely the workload model. After distributing, right, what is our final aim? Our final aim is to reach the required transactions per hour, right? In order to reach the required transactions per hour after distributing the user load, right, how you are going to reach it or how we are going to achieve the required transactions per hour is nothing but with the help of the pacing. By calculating the pacing and putting this pacing in the script, whatever that you are going to execute. Okay, with the help of
this
that
number.
Yeah, go ahead.
But this number will be given by the client, no, sir, in the.
Yeah, I'll cover that in the coming session. Right, there are different ways. In the next session itself, I will cover how we are going to get this number. I'll cover it in tomorrow's session. The NFR gathering part, we are going to get it. Anyhow, I'll cover that. Any other questions, guys, from anybody related to this workload modeling? Ganesh, not Ganesh Pagadala, another Ganesh. Vikas, Vikita, Raju, Navshin, Bhargavi, Divya, Manisha, Ishwar. No.
No, Mohan.
Okay. So once the workload modeling is done, right? So now we are good to go ahead with the test executions, guys. Right? So once the workload modeling is done, then we are good with the go with the test execution. And again, before going to the test execution, so this workload modeling will be done in the Excel format, guys. So you are going to use one Excel sheet, right? And in that Excel sheet, you are going to prepare this workload modeling, right? So once the workload modeling is done, then we'll go with the test execution. So we are going to do different types of tests, as I mentioned, load test, stress test, endurance test, spike test, like that, right? With the help of the tool again. So here in this particular stage, we are going to take help of the PT tools again. So whatever the PT tool that you choose, you are going to execute the test with the help of that particular PT tool. And once the test is done, you are going to generate the report, right? And you are going to start analyzing the report. And finally, you are going to, once after analyzing the test execution data, right? Finally, you're going to prepare one more report, right? So in that report, you will clearly mention what are the observations that you made, right? So what are the analysis? What is the exact analysis that you have done, right? If based on the analysis, you are seeing any issues, right? That issues we are going to call it as the bottleneck, right? So based on the analysis, if you find any bottlenecks, you are going to mention the same to the performance engineering team so that they will drill down or dig into that particular bottlenecks with the help of any ATM tool. And finally, they'll try to solve that issue by contacting the developer, right? And once if it is solved, again, we are going to retest it, right? And if everything is good, then simply we will go and we'll prepare the final report for this particular test execution, right? So the test reporting is going to be the last stage. And this process will keep on continuing for every sprint. This process will keep on continuing for every sprint, right? So this is what the PTLC is, performance testing life cycle, and what are the different stages that are there in the performance testing life cycle. So now the answer for the question which I asked you in the starting, guys, right? So if anybody is going to ask you what are the roles and responsibilities of you in your current company, then tell them that coming to my roles and responsibilities, I involved in almost all stages of the performance testing life cycle, starting from the NFR gathering till reporting part, right? If you're going to say like this, obviously he is going to ask the next question from the PTLC only, right? If you are good with the PTLC, guys, you can make the interviewer to ask the questions whatever that you know. So you need to mold the interviewer, guys. Obviously, you need to mold him in such a way that he should ask only the questions that you know, right? How he is going to ask the questions that you know means if you give him some hint, right? So if he is asking about the roles and responsibilities, instead of telling some blah blah things, right? If you are going to say like I involved in almost all stages of the performance testing, starting from the NFR gathering till reporting part, then obviously his next question is going to be what are the things that you gathered in the NFR stage? Then immediately, as you know the answer, right? You prepare with the answer previously itself, and as you know the answer, you're going to answer it very quickly, so that you will get some good impression. So in the same way, for each and every question, you need to give some hint to the interviewer so that he should ask the next question based on the hint that you have given. And make sure that, right, you are going to give the hint on the topic that you know. That is very, very important. Okay, if you know this kind of process, then tracking the interview is so simple, guys. There is going to be no toughest thing over here. First thing is you need to work hard and you need to understand the concept. Second thing is you need to explain the concept in a proper way. If you know these two things, then you can crack the interview so easily. Right? So with this, guys, I'm going to stop the session here for today, right? And we'll meet again tomorrow. In tomorrow's session, I'm going to show you the NFR Gathering real-time document. Okay. So that's all for today, guys. Thanks for attending this session. We'll meet again tomorrow.